it. International question. International question. International question. Anonymous, France.
Ooh, international.
Truly
Bonjour.
international.
Oui,
Oui.
Ça va? Comment ça va?
All right, now you're showing off.
Okay, sorry.
Hi, Gabby and Allison. I love listening to the podcast, and I've been wanting to submit an international question for quite some time because I always find your answers enlightening. And since I just had yet another frustrating conversation with my boyfriend regarding my addiction to YouTube and Facebook, I would really love to hear your advice about it. So more than 10 years ago, as I was studying abroad and going through a bit of a depression, I discovered YouTube and haven't stopped watching it since. This addiction now also includes Facebook. I call it that because sometimes I really do lose control over my consumption of content and just can't seem to be able to stop. I think I use the videos and feeds as a derivative way when I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, but it is also a bad habit that in turn makes my anxiety worse. I have been slowly getting better over the last few years, mainly due to the fact that I adopted a cat and met my boyfriend, so I now have 2 people at home who can prevent me from turning into a complete zombie. I have to admit that without supervision, I often struggle a lot more to self-regulate my use of these apps. It prevents me from spending my time in a more balanced and meaningful manner, like working, reading, or developing hobbies. But what also concerns me is that this issue is taken very personally by my boyfriend, who gets mad when I go on Facebook or YouTube in front of him, even when I feel I am not being excessive about it. It has reached a point where he wants me to hide those activities from him so as not to upset him. He resents me if I don't comply. But even though I agree that I have a problem, I don't like the way he goes about it. To me, it feels like he's projecting his own insecurities and trying to control me rather than help me reach my goal, which is not to quit for someone else's sake, but to develop a healthier relationship to these things on my own. Because they do add value into my life, especially YouTube. After all, that's where I know you guys from. Speaking of which, I remember an old JBU video where Allison mentioned that she went to Paris once and hated it because people there were not nice. One time, she had trouble opening the door of the metro and no one helped her. This is so funny. Okay. Well, Allison, I must confess, I have once been in the exact situation, except I myself was the unhelpful Parisian, not willing to open the door for the young American tourist because it's not that hard. They will figure it out eventually.
French people! French people!
Maybe that was you. So
French people!
Imagine.
Why are you like this?
It's unbelievable. So I would like to sincerely apologize on behalf of Paris. It's still a beautiful city. Come visit again someday.
I love Paris. I've been to Paris. I had a great time.
John is loves Paris, and it's his life's goal to make me like it too. but I gotta go on that metro again and see if anybody helps me. Anyway, how do you think me and my boyfriend should approach this issue? Should I let go of my pride and accept to be accountable to him because I can't resolve this on my own? Or is there a danger of entering a toxic dynamic? This is really the only big problem in our relationship. We met 5 years ago, we live together, and are planning to spend our lives together. I hope you keep doing your amazing work. Love from Paris.
Red flag.
I so often want to be like, well, but with this, I'm like, yikes.
Red flag. And you can tell him I said that. Red flag. You can't, it's controlling. I super resent when someone tells me to get off my phone. Number one, stay out of my business. Stay out of my life. It's not your problem. And two,
my God, I'm having flashbacks to shooting JBU sketches and multiple crews waiting for you to get off your phone and then us asking you to and you getting so mad at us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm better at it now, but you don't know what I'm doing and stay out of it. So I don't know. I feel like this is a slippery slope. And you know what's interesting is I've been reflecting a bit on a past abusive relationship. Trigger warning. We can wait 1 second. In college, I was in a relationship where the partner was physically violent with me. And I've been thinking a lot about that and what and other things, not that your boyfriend is that way, but other things around that relationship that were uncomfortable for me. And one of the things was this person sort of trying to control what I did on my own time and trying to control what I did with my own products. Your phone is your phone. You're allowed to do what you want with it. And the way that this person would sort of say, well, I want you to only wear these type of shoes. And it seems small and it's kind of weird. But it just I don't like his way of going about this because you seem to know, like you're aware of what's wrong with it. It's not helping you get healthy. It's shaming. It's making you feel like you're lesser than or something. Like I think you're spot on in that the method of going about it is a slight red flag, right? So for instance, if somebody is not drinking alcohol, I've seen friends in relationships, right, where maybe the person gets a little too drunk. There's some partners that will go, like, hey, we're trying to I'm not going to drink with you, or we're trying to, do these things. And that's nice. And then I've seen people, friends of mine who are trying not to drink or who drink a little bit too much in public. And the partner is like, I better not see a drink in your hand. Or like the partner is like, they'll get a drink and the partner will be like, oh, really? Another one? And I can very distinctly notice the difference between how the person is making the person with the addiction feel. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, something that's really jumping out to me about this is the lack of empathy, right?
Mhm.
That like he is reacting with anger towards you instead of empathy, that like this is probably a part of your life that is frustrating for you. I mean, it seems like it's something you're aware of, something you're working on, something that you would like to change, and it seems like you have changed and that you're still, that you're like on a journey of developing a healthier relationship with these things. Yeah, I think I don't know him, but I think when you react that emotionally and with that kind of anger, there probably is some projection of some kind happening. I don't know to what extent or why, but and it is hard, right? When it's like, well, it's just this one area of our life, right? In all other areas, the way that he treats me, the way we communicate is more kind. And I guess it's just a thing of thinking about, okay, so if another thing comes up in our life down the road where we disagree on how to handle it, or I want to behave in a way that he doesn't agree with, is this the MO? Is the MO for him to get mad and for him to want me to lie to him, or to do things in private? And that is really not a great dynamic to be walking into long term.
To ask you to do something in private, your partners, like now he's just creating secrecy and separation. I also want to say with coping mechanisms, you talked about how it was a coping mechanism for depression. Coping mechanisms just don't go away. They need to be replaced with something.
Right.
It's why alcoholics become obsessed with coffee. You can't just cold turkey get rid of the coping mechanism because you need to fill it with something else.
Right.
You can't just stop. And so, I think sometimes people are like, but this is my dynamic. And then the other person wants you to just not have that dynamic. But if you got obsessed with knitting, or if you started doing some other hobby that like filled in that time, because you have addictive tendencies, you might become very obsessed. Maybe you get into kickboxing. Maybe you get really into like, growing geodes or whatever, something that I tried to do that I failed at. But like your addictive tendencies might still crop up in other ways. So is it just that like one is more acceptable? Yeah, maybe, but you can't get rid of the coping mechanism. You just have to replace it, and he has to empathize with that.
And I wonder if what he's potentially reacting to is feeling ignored, right? Or feeling like you're not that, like you're kind of tapping into some unhealed problem that he has about feeling like people don't care about him, or that
they're not listening,
that he's not a priority, or that people would rather be doing something else than spending time with him. And so this really actually feels like a great thing to work through, specifically in couples counseling, where like I don't think that this dynamic is going to go away on its own. I mean, I think you can maybe do some, if the couples counseling isn't available to you or affordable, like I think that there are some resources that you can find, some books, some websites, various things. But this is something that I do think that is a relationship cycle or like a behavioral pattern that needs to be broken. I don't think that you can long-term maintain this relationship around this thing. I think that you guys have to do the work to have a new relational pattern around it. And that's, I think, probably easiest done in couples therapy, but also I think you can potentially do it on your own. But I think what you're going to have to see is his willingness to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think there's a version where you guys could go to therapy, get a better understanding of what these videos are doing for you and for you to get a better understanding of why he has such an emotional reaction to them, then
Yeah.
you can sort of like work together, meet in the middle, break the cycle.